Training. I'm an old research biologist. Spent a lot of time looking through microscopes in my college days. So this is just an interesting thing to do. But like Bruce said, you don't have to have a microscope, to make good compost tea. And at least in the slower season, if you're making your compost tea and you want it evaluated sometime, bring it by sometime when we've got our scope out and set up. And be happy to look at it and tell you, whether it's good or bad or otherwise. I don't see the gentleman who came a lot last year. He brought us a sample of his homemade tea. I was very embarrassed to say his was a whole lot better than what we were making. And then he gave us his series of steps that he went through, and it was amazing what he went through to make good tea. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm sorry I was late, but did you talk about how much you want to dilute the compost tea?
The water is strictly a carrier. In large applications, we figure about 5 gallons per acre, which means the average yard at home, probably about a gallon of compost tea. Bruce, I'm going to turn these things off because I think it's warm enough in here, and that way we won't. Okay. It makes no difference. It makes no difference. You're just mixing and spraying. I would have it set fairly wide open. So you're getting more tea and less city water mixed with it. Yes. Probably half a teaspoon, of molasses. Seaweed, maybe a tablespoon.
Is this in what size?
5 gallons.
Remember, very temperature dependent. They're going to really go nuts. As a matter of fact, Elaine taught us that at 106 degrees, you can't put enough oxygen in the water to make compost tea. So you want to keep your buckets in the shade, especially in the summer. You can get too cool for it to be very active, but it doesn't chill it, it just slows it down. But you can get so hot, you've got to have 6 parts per million or so of oxygen, and water at 106 degrees can't hold that much oxygen. That's why you see these places turn over once in a while where the sun hits them and all the fish die. Run out of oxygen.
What's the ideal temperature, did you say?
Well, if there's any one ideal temperature, I try to keep my bucket about 75 to 80 degrees. There probably is an exact peak, but again, that very much depends on what the bacteria is, how much food did you give them. Fungi is going to be different than bacteria. But yeah, in general, whatever's comfortable for you. If it's too cold for you, it's too cold for the
What
bucket.
about the compost on that 15 gallons? How much compost would I have to use for that 15 gallons?
15 gallons, what, a couple of quarts?
Yeah, a couple, maybe, 2.5 quarts, 3 quarts.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you tell us your website?
Mine? Sure. Natureapproved.net is the easiest one to get to. And let me tell Bob so I can brag a minute. As of yesterday, we were picked up by iTunes. So if anybody's got an MP3 or anything, all my shows will be on iTunes everywhere from now on. Sweet. So that'd be kind of fun to go get it. You can click them down from my site. I think Howard Garrett's going to put them on here. You'll be able to get them whenever you want them.
And after the seminar, I'll ask him what that means for us low-tech guys.
Yeah.
I bet they know.
Yeah.
.net or .com?
It's a .net, that way.
This is Bruce's tea bucket.
Folks, there's $25 worth of stuff here if you don't shop. I'll show them to you. These all come from, I'm going to give Wally World a push. They used to have everything that seems to work. Everything you're holding here, this don't even cost anymore. And these have to go from somewhere else. These guys are $1 or so each. Air stones. Oh, I guess I always forget.
Let's pass them around.
I thought everybody had fish. The pump that I have been using, folks, is awfully inexpensive. If you can spend a little more and get a bigger one, it won't hurt. But this has the magic of dual outlets, so you can run one end of the bucket and one end of the bag. Okay, and then when you get through, throw them both in the bucket. And this, I think, is $9.95. The biggest price, $10 aquarium pump. I've gone to a slightly bigger one just because I could get them, but I almost have to turn it down a little bit. So it's not much of a,
What's the gallon rating on the pump?
Oh, yeah, that's what you want to know. This is rated 20 to 60 gallons. I don't know where it is, but it is. Yeah, and that's about the right size. 50 or 60 gallon is way, you think, well, that's too much. No, it's not, because in the aquarium, all you're doing is moving they use it to run the filters under the soil, under the gravel and everything. We want to really get this thing bubbling, like again, a boiling pot.
So visualize, you've got 2 tubes coming off of this. You've got an air stone on each tube.
I cut this in 4 pieces. I run them from here. I run them to the little air stones with these splitters. Again, this has all got a book on the thing. And then the little guys,
98 cents?
yeah, 98 cents. The little guys go on each end of that on the splitter. The bigger guys go in the bottom of the tank. I'm always playing with it. Right now I try to make them even as I can. Other people that use mine put all the air stones in the bottom ones on one side and let the water roll. I'm not sure which is most effective. I get good tea. And this again is 25 bucks if you make your own, about 50 if you go buy it somewhere just because we're going to pay somebody to put them together.
If you've got a lot of foaming going on in your bucket, you can add a little bit of oil to cut down on that, but don't use olive oil, much as we love olives. Olive oil has a natural antibacterial component to it, so we don't use olive oil to cut down on the foaming, but just about any other kind of cooking oil, just a few drops, into your bucket will really cut down on the foam buildup.
These are the littler bags. These are the ones you get 2 for 97 cents. This is about the size I use in this size of bucket. Very inexpensive, yes.
Have you had any experience with wands? They're flexible tubes that kind of
I've
mimic
played with
this.
the air ones. The ones I got didn't work for me well, but
Okay.
I understand they were also very cheap. I've also gone now to a pump company that makes air stones as big as golf balls or a little bigger. And I'm going to play with those for the next, I've built a 15-gallon now. And I want to make sure I get enough air in it. And if I do, I'll teach you all how. I'll throw that on the web.
Can I use polypropylene cornstarch in a bigger container?
Use what now?
Well, the woven polypropylene
Yeah.
bags.
But yeah,
I used all the old pillowcases I was.
you see, let me tell you what part of the problem is. My favorite thing to play with is pantyhose. Since my wife found them in the car, no, that's what, but we discovered, or at least Elaine told me, that they're too fine. If you filter through them, or you put it in there, at least for fungi, they need to have I think she gave me like 200 thread per inch for those that do cloth, and that the pantyhose is too close. So I would guess that also pillowcases might be a little too close for fungal. You want a decent size hole in here. These seem to have worked out pretty well when we measured them, if I remember. So pantyhose is a little too fine. I would guess that your pillowcase is a little too fine. You want a little bit bigger hole than that. And you can always restrain these things. I pour back through this, or if you really want to strain them clear, you can actually make several folds of cheesecloth. Pour it through the cheesecloth. If it's starting to stop up your, okay, but remember, the more you filter it, the less fungi you're going to get if it gets too fine. Yes, ma'am.
So how much compost do you use in that size?
Well, I hate to do this to you. A couple of big hands full.
Cup and a half. If you need to be scientific. Exactly 1.5 cups.
I never have done it twice the same, so it's hard for me to tell you. And the truth is, that's intentional. I really don't think that the exact same formula over and over and over is necessarily the best. I go get dirt from here sometime, and I use llama poo one time and chicken manure the next, and compost it.
Making compost tea is both an art and a science. The art comes into playing with all the different stuff you put in. The science comes from knowing which stimulant will, enhance a particular thing that you want to increase in your compost tea. So there's a lot you learn after having done it for a little while.
Elaine has some good books, but they're expensive. But this guy, Teaming with Microbes,
Yep.
is available from TOFGA, read my hat.
Texas Organic Farmers and Gardeners Association.
And they have it at regular price. It's not very expensive. And as far as a little book that really gets you started and has some nice formulas and things, Teaming with Microbes is a winner.
Your question.
I didn't get his
NatureApproved.net.
And this gentleman, yes, sir.
You have holes in the bucket. Did you keep the lid on the bucket?
Yes, sir. I put this. I didn't used to have a lid. I had losing compost tea. There's my doggy around. and so I started doing it. And now I run that thread through there and hold this, and I can jiggle it up and down, and I can support this so it's not touching the bottom. So I'm getting more surface area.
And where do you get the
Teaming
hose
with microbes?
Teaming with microbes?
And the air hose?
Hairs on the side just to run them out so I can set the pump on top and be lazy.
Okay.
And so that my dog's name's Secret, and Secret won't drink anymore.
So if I have a bunch of these buckets without lids, they'll still work just fine?
Oh, sure, if you don't have a dog.
He was talking about using worm castings. We have a worm